Hillary Clinton just got her revenge against Donald Trump and these despicable MAGA Republicans. They required her to take a deposition regarding Epstein, while Howard Lutnick, Donald Trump, and the entire Epstein class Donald Trump is protecting are too scared to sit for a deposition. Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State, former Senator Clinton, who, by the way, I interned for back on Capitol Hill when I was in undergrad at GW, she said, you know what? I'm happy to testify. Let's do it in public. Let's testify before the entire world and let's make a hearing about it. The MAGA Republicans said, no, we don't want to do that. We want to do it secret. We want to do it in private. And former Secretary of State Clinton's like, okay, I guess we'll do it that way. But let's follow the rules then. And she's like, I still want this to be public, but okay, MAGA Republicans and Trump, if you want this concealed, I will respond to the subpoena, I guess, and I'll show up and I'll have my deposition taken. So the deposition took place today in New York, in her hometown, and she sat there, and then she discovered that Lauren Boebert and some of these MAGA Republican Congress members who were there were sneaking pictures of her. They were trying to take pictures of her and then send it to right-wing influencers like Benny Johnson. And then Hillary Clinton's like, okay, look, first up, you're violating the rules. If you want to do that type of stuff, let's just have the press in here and let's have everybody see what these MAGA Republicans are doing. I want to speak to the world. And then James Comer, who chairs the Oversight Committee, is like, no. This goes down in secret. So after the MAGA Republicans disrupted the deposition by taking photos of her and violating the rules and sending them to right-wing MAGA media influencers or whatever they call themselves, the deposition resumed. Hillary Clinton's like, can we do it in public? Can we have the press come into the room now? Let's do it in public. And then James Comer was like, no, we're not doing it. So then the deposition resumed. She answered all of the questions. You had lots of questions about the Clinton Global Initiative. You had questions about the most random things that were there. And the Democrats are like, release that transcript right now. We want the world to see what went down. It's also notable that these MAGA Republican Congress members, in addition to not taking the deposition of Howard Lutnick and other people that this cabal is protecting, especially, shouldn't Trump be deposed? Because he's like the main star, if you call it that, he's the main character, if you will, in the Epstein files. But then they don't show up to Les Wexner's deposition in Ohio, the guy a co-conspirator of Epstein, who funded Epstein, but they were all here for Hillary Clinton trying to take social media photos of her for these MAGA influencers. So utterly weird and bizarre. They refused to allow the press in after Hillary Clinton said, invite him in. Let's have everybody watch. Doesn't that tell you just about everything? And then moments ago, Democrats held a press conference outside of where the deposition took place. Let me show you what went down. Here is Democratic Congress member Garcia, who's also the ranking member of the House Oversight Committee. Here's what he had to say.
From her. Secretary Clinton is also completely cooperating with the deposition and the committee and is answering questions in full faith and in good faith. What is not acceptable is oversight Republicans breaking their own committee rules that they established with the secretary and her team, which you've all reported and you've seen by releasing photos. Not acceptable, and it was gracious of the secretary and her team to continue the deposition.
More from Garcia here.
To getting this video transcript out immediately.
And to be clear, she's answering every question.
To be clear, she's answering all the questions.
Taking the fifth at all?
To be clear, she's answering all the questions. I think I can safely say that she's not taking the fifth.
Mr. Garcia,
last question.
In terms of her relation.
More from Garcia here.
Lastly, I want to also add that this committee has now set a new precedent about talking to presidents and former presidents. And we're demanding immediately that we ask President Trump to testify in front of our committee and be deposed in front of oversight Republicans and Democrats. And that should happen immediately. He is the person that appears almost more than anyone else in the committee, and it needs to happen right now.
Mr. Chairman, do you distinguish at all between president and a former president and a sitting president? I mean, is there something in there? Because they will say, wait a minute, we know what what the court ruled on his immunity.
We should depose the person that is mentioned in the Epstein files almost more than any other person next to Ghislaine Maxwell, and that's Donald Trump.
Mr. Rankin,
We're gonna have a couple
really
comments and then
quickly,
we're gonna.
though, how did that?
Then Democratic Congressmember Walkinshaw, let's play this clip.
These questions. Why is it that Donald Trump has refused to rule out the pardon, the clemency that Ghislaine Maxwell is campaigning for? We held a deposition in this committee with Ghislaine Maxwell. She used that deposition as an opportunity to campaign for a pardon. Chairman Comer then walked out before many of you and gave her talking points as to why she should get a pardon. Donald Trump needs to direct Attorney General Bondi to release all the files, to unredact the illegal redactions, and he needs to unequivocally rule out a pardon for Ghislaine Maxwell, who is a monster convicted of child sex trafficking. Why has he not ruled out pardoning her? Why did the Deputy Attorney General spend hours with her? And then why was she transferred to a cushy, lower security prison? Those are important questions we should be asking about Ghislaine Maxwell. We no longer have to ask whether there's any relationship between Secretary Clinton and Ghislaine Maxwell. There was not.
Next, Democratic Congressmember Subramanian, let's play it.
House Republicans need to get serious about this investigation. I understand now fully why Secretary Clinton wanted to make this deposition and her hearing public, because the reality is we're talking to the wrong person today. Who we should be talking to instead are people who are actually mentioned in the files, people who have made misleading statements about their relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Earlier today, Chairman Comer mentioned being open to talking to Secretary Lutnick. Well, let's get him in. Let's talk to Secretary Lutnick instead. Let's talk to someone who is neighbors with Jeffrey Epstein, who actually associated with Jeffrey Epstein, not someone who had never, ever met Jeffrey Epstein to their knowledge. And so let's try to talk about people who will help us with our investigation. And let's release the 2.5 million files so we can know who else to talk to and so we can do right by the victims and actually bring justice. Thank you.
Congresswoman Ansari, let's play it.
I also want to talk about the reporting from this week and the fact that we now know that the Department of Justice, in their ongoing cover-up, the most egregious cover-up in American history, intentionally seem to have redacted more or withheld more than 50 pages of allegations from a minor against President Trump. Do not forget that Kash Patel went in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee and said under oath that the FBI had no credible allegations of any other people being involved in this child sex trafficking operation. These documents that the Department of Justice intentionally has withheld from the American public in regard to the allegations against President Trump came from the FBI. The FBI had interviewed this witness 4 times. You do not do that if it is not serious. So Kash Patel needs to be immediately brought back before the Oversight Committee. He needs to answer these questions again, and we need answers immediately. Again, America is watching. Young people in this country are watching to see if powerful people will continue to protect other powerful people and whether